Welcome and thanks for joining the Innovative AI podcast. With me today, we have Erik Santiago from Prix Logistics. Thanks for joining, Erik. Appreciate it. Um, why don't we start off just telling us a little bit about you, Prix, your journey, what you're up to.
So I started this business back in 2023 after stopping working for another trucking company. Just seeing that how small businesses and other trucking companies operate, it's not up to the standard. So I started. Then I came across a customer, and I got into freight brokerage, and now we're into technology.
Nice. So Prix is focusing on technology-based solutions in that industry.
Correct. So we're still going to be in transportation. We're still going to be in the brokerage realm. We're still going to be in transportation, but now we're just evolving more into technology and fixing the issues in the industry altogether.
That's interesting, right? Because tech is kind of making its way into every industry. So what trends did you see in logistics where you're like a lot of this can be solved through either automations or implementations of AI? Like what'd you see on the ground?
Well, since AI has started to evolve, that's the key piece for transportation. AI makes it easier and automates the system for you. So leveraging artificial intelligence is the key on what's going to make companies successful and be able to streamline and reduce that overhead cost.
So give me an example of that, like in real world.
So in real world, for like say larger companies are still operating on an old scale platform. So they have a lot of administration, they have a lot of actual labor cost, labor intense, and their systems are not up to date with the freight rates. So industry wide, freight has been reducing. Customers want it cheaper. Everybody's giving cheaper rates. That's why we see a lot of large companies going out of business, filing bankruptcy, because they still have not got that key factor of how to reduce overhead cost. And that's what our system's going to be able to provide, that system that all the companies need, brokerages or trucking companies.
So this is really driven by like, customer expectation, right? They're like, in this day and age, you should be able to do it more efficiently. More efficiency means lower costs, right? Less errors and things like that. So you talk about a system you're building.
Correct. So we're in development of this system. So our system is keen to do all these, but also it has the first freight fraud detection system. So it's very similar to a lot of systems that are currently out there, but the difference between their systems and our system is that their systems do not determine if it's a bad actor, high risk, or actual a fraudulent actor.
Gotcha. But fraud in logistics has been around for a while, right? So, but a lot of the older systems, like they need not only refactoring but feature updating and things like that. So, do you have any insight as to like why the industry is kind of behind in either software refactoring or introduction into different technical advantages inside those systems? Is there a reason, do you think?
The biggest reason in transportation why technology hasn't evolved is because the decision makers that make those decisions do not understand how those key aspects of freight fraud or freight theft actually hurt the customer or the business itself. They don't know how to identify it. They don't know how to fix the root problem. They don't know what the actual user, from the driver or the dispatcher or the freight broker, deals with on a day-to-day basis.
Gotcha. So you're going after fraud detection. Was there anything else that your system, like uh, maybe you could talk about, maybe you can't, some of the tools that you're going to be using or embedding and what problems they're going to be solving for logistics and distribution?
Yes. So one of our main key points is artificial intelligence. We're actually implementing AI. I can't talk too much in depth after that, but what our system is going to be able to do is streamline the process from beginning to end. What that means is when you have a freight broker or a trucking company, they take a load from a customer. They input that load one time. They no longer have to input that load multiple times into multiple systems throughout start to finish dispatching and also accounting. Our software is going to be able to do that.
That happens a
Yes,
lot. Multiple entry. Sure. Okay. So you want to use some AI modeling to eliminate redundancy.
correct. And that's what's going to reduce that overhead cost, because a lot of the redundancy in data entry is what's the problem for a lot of companies on reducing the actual overhead cost.
So how much time do you think is wasted in processing loads for
So
distribution?
say on one load, a customer takes one load. A company probably spends between 2 to 3 hours from start to finish on data entry, accounting, and invoicing just for one load. So if a customer is, say, a company is shipping out 300 loads, that is time consuming.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So who are you going to go after within your market? You going to go after the big guys, the little guys? Like where do you see?
Our system's actually made for everyone. It doesn't matter how big or small. Everybody will see immediate benefit from using our platform. Not only the freight fraud detection and the freight theft, but also it helps reduce that overhead cost and streamline your operations. So you're no longer going to need multiple platforms to be able to do and operate in your company. And that is why every company, it doesn't matter the size they are, they will have a benefit and they will see immediate savings in streamlining their process.
That's awesome, dude. Congratulations on that. So it's interesting to me because I'm listening to you, but you're talking about the decision makers at these companies don't understand the problem. How do you think you're going to be effective in conveying you have a solution to a problem that they're having trouble sizing or appreciating, its breadth, where your solution would, save hundreds, maybe thousands of hours, immeasurable costs. How do you convey that to those decision makers if they're already having problems like understanding where the cracks in the armor might be?
So that is one of the key things a lot of people have asked. The difference is being able to communicate with the actual decision makers, telling them what the problem is, telling them each individual in their company and what those problems are and what we can do to fix those problems and what our system is able to do. They don't know how to fix it themselves, or they don't know how to create a software to do so. But being able to explain that to them and actually show it to them, actually have them feel, test, and actually use the platform, that's when they're able to then determine and understand more how this system is going to benefit their company long term. You know, a lot of big companies, especially publicly traded companies, so all the mega couriers and the brokers that are publicly traded, they're all about profits. So being able to communicate with them in essence and tell them what our system can save them long term is basically the key factor on being able to open that door to even talk to them. They're trying to be more profitable. How can we help you be more profitable? What is our system going to be able to do for your company? Not only save you money, but save you time, streamline your operations, and you'll see more profit in this day and age in the market, is what the key factor is, how we're going to gain the audience attention.
Interesting. Now, so you took this on to build it yourself. So you have engineers on staff at Prix, or are you doing like let's talk about some of your journey as far as building software. Do you have experience building software?
A little, not a lot. This is my first time actually in the driver's seat of actually building a platform. I've been involved, but not in anything in transportation. So this is my first time.
I was gonna say, talk about some of the steps where you made the decision. You're like, I'm gonna build this. Like, how'd your head work to figure out, who you're gonna partner with, what types of engineers, what's gonna be your MVP, what problem you were tackling specifically. How'd you go through all that stuff? Because I think that's an interesting journey.
So when I've been determining, am I going to actually create this or find somebody to create this? So I've actually had two different TMS systems, a transportation management software. So I've used two different systems and I've tried to work with them to develop that ultimate platform. They just are not in the realm of creating that platform or understanding what a platform needs with the user aspect. So that's when it took me 3 years to figure that out. And when I figured that out, that's when I decided, look, I'm going to start looking into this. So I've talked to a few developers. It's a two-way street. So partnering with somebody to help you develop your vision is key. They have to believe and understand what they're developing and what's the purpose behind this in order to have a great partner developing your technology. So it took me a little bit to find that right person. And that's basically how I started in this journey of now developing this software.
How did you tackle some of the bigger questions that always on people's minds? Like, how do you fund it? How do you know what the MVP, that minimal viable product is? How do you know how long it's supposed to take if you're not like to get there? If you're not an engineer, where are the scary parts? Like when you're not an engineer, like how you're going to figure this stuff out? Like I said, funding, timing, aptitudes and scalability of the engineering partner you picked. How'd you tackle those things?
So those you have to be realistic. So a lot of people, if you have no clue what you're doing, you probably want to start by having discussions with people or other individuals that have developed in the past to get more of an understanding on their process and what it took. Then you'll have more of an idea on where you are going to start with. After that part, then figure out what is your time frame as you're developing. It's not generating revenue. So you have to be able to determine how long, as then it's considered a burn rate when this platform needs to be out that's going to be beneficial, but also still hitting those main targets. So you don't want to put a platform out that's shitty or subpar, because then you're not fixing a problem. You're not helping anyone. You're just hurting. So you have to be able to have that fine balance on, is this the right time for me? Do I have the funds, or can I obtain the funds throughout that process after you find that right individual and they believe in you? Those are your key factors that you want to probably sit with first to determine, is this a right time for you to actually develop your software?
So can I gather from that you're self-funding? Or
Yes,
did you raise? You're
I'm self-funding. So it also depends on,
you picked one guy to work with, one developer to work with?
yes, it's a team. So he has already a pre-established and a great reputation. He's built a lot of different programs and softwares. He actually just developed a software for import and export for transportation, and they're an AI-driven system as well.
So he
So
has a team. You say an individual, but it's like
he
you're
has
the
a
point of
team.
contact for a team.
Correct.
Gotcha. And how's that going so far? Well,
It's
actually,
great.
are you production ready? Are you out on is the software available? Do you want to tell people what it's called?
So it's not available yet. We're actually, next week, we're going to start being able to allow people to use it free of charge, give us feedback. It's called TransGuard. It is going to be, it's considered a transportation management software, but we're actually going to market it as a transportation utility software, as our system is not just geared towards the transportation aspect. You have the accounting aspect, you have the load board, you actually have the traditional TMS system features built in with that freight fraud detection.
Gotcha. So is it safe to assume that this would be an asset owned by Prix?
Yes.
So that's where the logistics companies headed. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like, where do you see Prix going? Do you see it becoming a tech company and less on the ground involved in actual logistics and providing technical solutions to logistics? Like, where do you see your road ahead now that you've?
So our vision has always been to create the largest network. It's not technically for us to actually do the work. We're still going to operate. We're still going to have trucks, drivers, freight brokers out there, but it's actually to create the largest network. So we're going to be moving into technology. Technology is going to give us the leverage to connect everybody that we need to connect with in a network that is secure, and only the best individuals or companies in that network. So we're creating the next generation of transportation where everybody in our system, everybody in our network are A-rated providers. We're not dealing with subpar. So coming to Prix Logistics and Prix Freight Services, you're going to only get the best. And that's what we're targeting, is strain those customers away from the bad actors or the subpar actors or the substandard service.
Very cool. If you could impart one piece of wisdom through this whole journey, right? So you started your company, you saw the market, you decided to make software, you're building software, you're on the verge of releasing it, and then that whole journey behind that, like, pitching your product and stuff. What's one lesson you learned that you think is like really the gem that you'd love to impart on some people that are listening to this?
Honestly, there's ups and downs in everything. You have to take the down part, just like good and bad. You have to take the bad with the good. Good will come. Sometimes you get more bad days than good days, but you don't let that deter you from stopping what your ultimate goal is.
Cool. And just to wrap up, can you tell people how they can find you? And then if they're interested in the software, how they can learn more about the software?
Yes, so currently our website is being developed for the software, but you can check our website. It's prelogistics.com. Our software website will be up soon, so as soon as I do have that information,
I was it wrong the whole time. It's pre.
Yes, it's
Like
PRIS. Yes. So the story behind that is actually my business partner that was actually as we were planning to create the trucking company, he had passed away, but somebody already had the name Grand Prix. So, Grand Prix is actually prize.
Yeah, got it. That's clever. I stepped on your response, so how people can find you. So the website's being developed, but then they could find you where? I'm sorry. Great. And they could find you on LinkedIn, of course.
Yes, LinkedIn.
Great. Thanks so much, Erik. I appreciate it. It's
You're
been
welcome.
interesting to hear about your journey. Let's stay in touch. I'd like to hear how it's going along the way.
Definitely will. Thank you, guys.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.